I think it was a bit strange, but I think we were a lot of attackers because we wanted to score a goal, and this is what we did. So to tell the truth, that's the most important thing.
29 minutes last week against Atletico, I think a little bit more tonight. Physically, how close do you think you are to being fully fit now?
Yeah, I think I'm close. I'm working really hard in training session to regain the form because it's not easy after 2 months without playing. But the guys are helping me a lot. So to tell the truth, I think I'm really close.
And psychologically, emotionally, how do you feel in this new stage? It feels like almost a second opportunity at a time when things obviously were quite difficult at Arsenal.
Yeah, definitely, it's a big opportunity for me. So that's why I said when I arrived, I was really happy. And as I said, I will try to give my best for the team.
Game, eh? At the start, if you said 2-2, you'd imagine that it would be Espanyol be the happier of the two sides. Yet at the full-time whistle, it's clearly Barca who are delighted that they just took a point. Sid?
Well, Xavi said the opposite. It was quite interesting listening to him after the game. He said that this should have felt like a victory in the way that it happened, but that he felt this was a game that Barcelona really should have put out of sight earlier on. He said at 1-0 up, they had chances for two. He said that he felt that they conceded the goal that Sergi Darder scored at a point at which they were in control of the game, and then conceded again to Raul de Tomas at a point when he felt that they were getting back in control of the game again. But obviously the way that it finally happens means that Barcelona leave here feeling reasonably pleased with it. And of course, the context that we were talking about pre-show, Dan, about that whole idea of Barcelona starting to find their feet. Now, I think when you analyse tonight's game, you will maybe back away from that analysis a little bit, but it's another week in which they haven't been beaten. They still now haven't been beaten since December.
That's certainly the positive spin on it. The negative one, Sid, maybe, as you were saying in the week, that some of the Catalan newspapers were suggesting with Real Madrid struggling without Benzema, that maybe Barcelona could catch them at the top of the table. I would suggest maybe that title challenge is over.
Possibly. It could well be, couldn't it? I mean, they could have won 15-0 tonight and it probably would have been over. It is curious that the focus on this was that Real Madrid have dropped 2 points. That's the chance to maybe get a little bit closer. Of course, there's time still for this to happen. I think that's a step too far. I think deep down Xavi knows that, even though he says, look, we're not going to turn our backs on any option this season. The main thing is to get into the top four. They will still feel, I think, that they're in a good position to do that. I think the other thing, I suppose, is the analysis of the game itself tonight. And while Xavi, I think, is probably right that a lot of the time it felt like they were in control, the creativity wasn't always there, and certainly not the subtlety that you would anticipate seeing with a Xavi team. This was a team that, I believe when Luke de Jong headed in, I think that was the 26th cross from Barcelona tonight. Now, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with putting crosses into the box, but of course it doesn't quite fit with the identity that they're trying to build. And of course the other thing is that if you keep putting the ball in the box, well, you might as well put someone on the pitch who can actually head it. And that's eventually what happened, and it got them the equaliser.
It certainly did. Meanwhile, of course, focus turns to the Champions League this week. PSG against Real Madrid, the standout tie. Carlo Ancelotti naming the squad today, which included Karim Benzema. Sid, I'm intrigued to get your view and the view in Spain regarding what we discussed yesterday. Given the poor run of form that Real Madrid are on, are they better not risking Benzema, focusing on La Liga, making sure they get that done, get over the line there, before contemplating risking Benzema for the Champions League?
Well, the first part of the answer, of course, is the extent to which it's a risk or not. Now, Benzema trained with the team today, but only for some of the session, not for the whole thing. So the first things first, it clearly would be a bit of a risk for him to play. And, of course, this is off the back of the context of this, is that when this injury first happened, there was a bit of a sense of, well, it's 7 to 10 days, it's no big deal, but it clearly is worse than was originally said. From within the dressing room at Real Madrid, there's a very clear sense that this is worse than it was originally anticipated, and there is a risk implicit in it. And then we get to the next stage of it, which is exactly the question you ask, has been asked in Spain. And I must confess, I'm surprised by that. I thought that everybody in Spain would be thinking, well, look, the moment he's even remotely fit, put him in because we need him, because he's really significant. But I think the fact that Sevilla are now only 4 points behind, the fact that the league title doesn't look like a foregone conclusion, in other words, you wouldn't necessarily risk the league to chase a Champions League, which you think you could win, but you don't think you're very likely to win. And I think that has tilted the balance back a little bit towards saying, don't risk him. Of course, the other reason to not risk him is that this is a two-legged tie. So if they were to go to Paris and get a reasonable result without winning, then in theory, at least, he would be fully fit for the return leg. So the debate is there, and I suspect it feels a little bit like Spain is now leaning towards, yeah, don't risk him. Maybe play him 20 minutes, maybe play him half an hour, but do not do anything that runs the risk of him getting injured again.
What the heck are they going to do at left back, Sid? Because Marcelo can't play there again.
What?
He was shocking against Villarreal. Against PSG, it's a different level.
Well, I feel like I shouldn't tell you who, because it might be a little bit unfair, but I was talking to a colleague and a friend about Marcelo on Saturday, and he said to me, you know, watching Marcelo, it's a Marcelo tribute band. It looks a bit like Marcelo, and it plays a bit like Marcelo, but it just isn't anymore. And of course, like a tribute band as well, it only really plays in the venues that aren't that important. Yeah. And you sort of feel like that might well be the case this week. I think in a way the answer is relatively simple. If Mendy's not there, you play Nacho, because you maybe lose some of the technical quality because Marcelo's still got that, but you gain a defender.
Sid, as always, thank you very much. Benzema, yes or no? What do you do?
Absolutely not.
Right.
The most important player for Real Madrid currently is Karim Benzema.
If you're 20 points ahead, it's a different conversation, yeah?
Yes, but that's not where we are.
Yeah.
And so not only do you not risk him, I imagine that he's taking him just to kind of plant the idea in PSG that he may play.
Okay.
And maybe that affects some of the decisions for Pochettino and PSG. But I do not think for a second that Carlo Ancelotti would risk Karim Benzema and potentially lose him for an extended period of time in La Liga. That does not make any sort of sense. I don't think he will do it, and I don't think it's worth it.
That's it. That brings us to the end of today's show. Of course, more on this game tomorrow as we'll be looking ahead.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN+.